Well, welcome to our Life Talk discussion this evening. Glad you're joining us. I know others are joining us. I can see the viewer count climbing as we speak, so we're glad to have you. If this is by chance your first time, or maybe the first time in a long time you've joined us, we are just gathered around the words that you see right there on the screen in front of you. Life Talk, Encountering Truth, Discovering Life, is our discussion around the Word of God. So we sort of want you to imagine, if you can, that we're maybe around someone's dining room table with our Bibles open and just having a great discussion about God's Word. And more importantly, and just seek to understand it. That's important, obviously. That's the beginning point. But we want to, how does this work in our lives to get it very, very practical for us? So we spend a lot of time on that. And tonight we are in a study that this is now part 3 of our study that we've entitled How to Love Like God. And we're looking at the attributes of love as found in 1 Corinthians 13. So if you have your Bible handy, you might want to get that ready, because we're going to look at least a portion of that. So let's get, we have a different lineup tonight, and it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. So let's bring everybody in. And as soon as we get Adam unmuted there. Adam, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
And who's this wonderful person just above you here?
Oh,
that's on the same plane. There you go.
Go ahead, baby. Introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Sarah, and I'm Adam's wife. Thank you guys for having me tonight.
Well, we appreciate that. Sarah, what's something about you that most people don't know?
Oh, gosh. I have done a tandem skydive.
A tandem skydive?
I've been skydiving once.
You jumped out of a perfectly good airplane for no good reason.
I did.
Oh, my goodness. I don't know anymore.
It was
I'm already nervous. I salute your courage. I did not know that about you. When we have time, I'm going to hear the whole story. That would be a lot of fun. What's something about you that most people don't know, Adam?
Oh, man. I don't know. I have an ET finger. There you go.
And there's a story there. We'll leave that alone.
Yep. Anybody can ask me, hey, what's an ET? Hey, wait till Sunday. That'd be a different conversation. But just come up to me and be like, I want to ask you about your ET finger. There's a story behind that.
Okay, very good. Okay, Adam, we're going to get started. I'm going to share a couple things real quick. First of all, we want your comments. It actually looks like we have a few that are coming in. If you just want to say hello, like Patsy's done there, we really appreciate that. And Linda says she's watching and ready to learn. We appreciate that. If you just type us nothing more than just hi, I'm here watching, we would really appreciate that. And if you want to, this would be really helpful for us. If there's more than one of you watching, just tell us, just put a number there, like 2 watching, 3 watching, 1 watching. That's okay, because we know there might be more than one person watching. That kind of just really would help us. And so we appreciate that. And study guide. Adam, why don't you tell us where to get the study guide tonight?
If you're on Facebook right now, you can click on our most recent post and click on a link, and you will see this. Or you could go to calvarywv.com, click on news, and it is right there, along with all our other previous videos and study guides as well.
All right, very good. Joyce, it's good to have you with us, as well as Angie. We appreciate you joining us tonight. And Lisa. And she put 6 there. So
yay.
Okay, so there's 6 watching with you. And
Mary Smith.
Mary says 2. Thank you, Mary.
Thanks.
We'll keep those coming. Okay, Adam, I have one more thing I want you to talk about, which is to get us ready for next week. And then we're going to get into this week. I promise you.
Yes.
What do we need everybody to do getting ready for next week?
All right, folks. So we're going to try something a little different. Because as much as we like interacting with you all and having a discussion amongst you all, we want you all to submit your questions, particularly that evolve around this series about love. Maybe it's something like, okay, well, I've been in a relationship for quite some time, but I don't know if I should marry this person based upon this, or I'm having a difficult time with my spouse in this aspect, whatever it may be. When it comes to love, when it comes to being patient, when it comes to kind, I mean, pretty much your 1 Corinthians chapter 13 passage, by looking at that, what questions do you have for us? And you can email Lisa Heller those. It's lh@calvarywv.com. And we are looking forward to your questions. And I'm sure that we'll have some questions of our of our own that we'll be asking people as well too. But we would really like to hear from you, and if you could, we would love to have those questions by next Monday, next Tuesday, the latest. Kind of gives us a little time to prep a little bit.
And you can ask your question anonymously. We will not share your name unless you tell us it's okay. We'll do it anonymously otherwise. It's a little different than the comments that we're getting in response to getting, because people will see your profile. So we appreciate that very much. So let's get to our study for tonight as we talk about how to love like God from 1 Corinthians 13. And I'd like for us just to sort of begin tonight by taking a quick look at that passage again. And if you have your Bible, you might want to get it ready there. But this is a multi-part definition, and each one of these words, each one of these descriptors, is just packed chock full of meaning to help us along in this. And I'm going to read the section for tonight again as we go through this. But he says in verse 4, 1 Corinthians 13, love suffers long and is kind. We're going to talk about kindness tonight. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up. Love does not behave rudely. That's two on our list of three we're going to look at tonight. Does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil. Verse 6, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in truth. Bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. And love never fails. He talks about there are things that will fail, but love never will. So the three tonight are kindness, love is not selfish, and love is not rude. So, Adam, why don't you just jump into our icebreaker for tonight? Icebreaker.
All right, folks.
To break the ice and get us talking, okay?
Yes. And so for any of you guys who are tuning in right with us right now, we just want to ask, and please, we have put this up. No rants, because honestly, we could talk about this probably all night long, to be honest. So what do you consider particularly rude behavior? I mean, this can run the gamut here, folks. So we want to hear from you. Go ahead and type away those answers. What do you consider rude behavior? And I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, babe. Sarah, sorry.
I assume babe refers to Sarah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, I didn't know if anybody was, watching or hearing it, be like, well, it is my wife, just to let you guys know. But go ahead and say what you got to say on that.
All right. Yeah. So just a few would be like if somebody's preoccupied and they're trying to talk to you, you're trying to talk to them. So if they're not listening and making time for you, I would find that rude. Also, some of the nonverbal cues, like if you're having a conversation and somebody's rolling their eyes or their hands across, like
Angie,
it's kind of hard to talk to somebody.
Yes,
thank you, Angie.
That must be a big one, the eye rolling. Go ahead, Sarah.
Other rude behavior, somebody talking about you behind your back or talking down to you.
Okay.
Those are some things that I'd come up with.
Okay. I thought of one that has to do with driving and on the road, and that is people who can't. Sorry, that's not the look we want. That's the look we want. People who can't stay between the lines. There's a lot of people. There's lines. The state puts a lot of money in painting those lines on the roads. And Julie and I were driving home from church yesterday morning, so it's about 12:30 or so, and we were behind some person. I'm glad I didn't know who it is. If you're watching, okay, this is just a friendly reminder. Those lines are for a purpose. But it was on the yellow line, the white line, and I started counting. Oh, there's another yellow line. Pay attention. Pay attention. That's important.
Wow, if you had a count, that means they went off the road, or
they got off our exit where we get off the interstate, and
wow.
It was just there. So, wow. By the way, Angie, I want you to see this. Angie's mentioned a moment ago eye rolling. Okay, and here's why she thinks that. Okay, for all of you with teenagers, you can relate. Okay. Vonna, yep, I would agree with that. Mm-hmm. Not necessary. A sign of a weak vocabulary and a poorly disciplined mind if you have to throw that into conversation. That's right. Someone who talks over top of you, and we know they're not listening to anything you say. Those of us who are talkers in the world probably all plead guilty to that, that sort of thing. Joyce says, out to dinner with friends and they're on their phone while eating. And while you're talking
Yes.
to them, they're talking on the phone.
Truth.
Yes. Or they're texting.
And you were saying? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we might get a few more of those. If we do, we'll throw them on the screen. But I do want to get into our discussion tonight. So we're talking first of all, and these all sort of fit together. Okay. If it says not rude, that's sort of withholding. Kindness is sort of the opposite. It's giving. You know, I give kindness, I withhold rudeness, and all these things fit together in this beautiful sort of like three-dimensional, beautiful work of art as well. So let's get to our first question, and I think this is the first question. Okay, Adam, why don't you get us going on that?
All right. So first question. Oh, did we skip a question?
We may have. I don't know. Let me hang on a second.
That's fine if
So
you
we
want
can
to.
still
I
start with
prefer-
this one.
Yeah, I don't have that one to put on the screen, so let me just hide that. And you ask the question that's on your study guide. It's right here.
How does talking or no. How does taking the initiative to be kind complete what patience starts? And Pastor Jesse kind of hinted a little bit at that of how it's three-dimensional, how those fit and interact with one another. But I'll just say this, that part of patience is not to be hasty. It's not to, it's to steadfast despite the opposition or difficulty. And I'm just kind of reading one of your definitions that you put up and so forth earlier. So to complete this, an individual who is being passive responsive, that means they're being patient. They're taking that approach and then actively initiating something to another. So kind and patience are aspects of the fruit of the Spirit. That's how it would complete one another and so forth. But again, I don't want to talk a lot. So, hey, babe, I'm going to pass the ball on to you because I'm sure that you probably have a completely different answer or aspect on that.
I think actually I have a similar one, and we did not discuss our answers, so that's kind of cool. But
okay.
So yeah, I was just trying to think about the two words of being kind, and then the act of being kind, and then what is patience. So I mean, for myself or for anybody, I mean, if they're being patient, then they're going to be slow to react, and sometimes we're in situations. I know, like as a family, we've got small children, so sometimes it's easy to let the circumstance kind of push you into how you're going to react sometimes. And so if I'm being patient, then I'm going to be slower to act. I'm not going to immediately get mad and just, be rude or unloving to somebody. So, I mean, these go hand in hand. They do work together. So if I'm actively trying to be kind, I'm going to react calmer. I'm going to have more grace on whomever the person is. Who has made the mistake or done something that I didn't think was appropriate or right. So just overall, they kind of go hand in hand, because if you're going to be kind, then you're not going to let your emotions, so to speak, spur how you're going to react so abruptly.
Very good. Thank you, Sarah. Great job. I wrote this down, so let me read it just so I can get this out. Okay, I wrote patient and kind, as you were just talking, are complementary terms. Whereas being patient withholds our agenda, our frustration, and our judgment. Kindness extends positive action to facilitate the agenda of the other. And, the first part of that, I mean, it's all difficult because of the flesh, but as believers, we want to, love like God loves. But sometimes we think we succeed if I'm just patient. If I didn't blow up, I didn't criticize, I wasn't rude in return. But kindness says you take this additional step of get out my agenda, what facilitates an agenda that's helpful to them. And when we get down here a little bit later, we're going to talk about ask the question about how we extend this kind of kindness to someone, and how do we do it, and how we put that into practice in our lives. So we need it. And we also often talk about supply and demand dictates cost, and which is true. But it's also true in the relational world. There is a shortage of kindness. That's why it's so valuable, because it's in short supply.
I think it's
give us.
No, I was just in agreement with that. I think that's a different perspective on some things, and I'm sure a lot of us know this intellectually, but to be reminded of that the patience, the whole aspect, like you were saying, like holding your mouth and doing things, but being kind is taking the initiative, taking that action that is for the better and greater good of the other individual. That's something completely different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, that's a really good reminder and a good illustration, because it goes back to like your nonverbals. So even though if you're patient, I mean, based off how you react, and even if you don't say anything, can still come across as negative if you're not trying to be kind.
So if I should not roll my eyes then.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Very
There you
good.
go.
Okay. All right. Well, I think the next question is going to just kind of probe us a little bit deeper in that. And hopefully, give me just a second, get ready to get that up here. Because I think we've all experienced this. I think, or we've seen it in action, we've experienced it, we've probably received it. But here's the question. Why is it easy to treat a stranger with respect more than someone you may be close to? And we've all seen that, where they're polite to you as a stranger, and they'll turn around and just lash out at their kids or their spouse, or someone close to them. So it's an interesting dynamic. Now, to love like God, remember who He tells us to love. Okay, we're to love God, obviously. We're to love our neighbor as ourselves, and we're to love our enemies. This love like God there's no footnote, there's no exception, there's no escape clause. This is what He commands us to do as believers. This is what He's done for us. So I'll let one of you take a stab at it, and then one of you, several of you that are watching, we'd love to hear you give us a little bit of a comment on this. We'd like to bring your comments in and share with everyone else. We know you're watching. We see the numbers ticking off on the screen, so jump in here. We appreciate that.
Go ahead, babe. Take a stab at it.
All right. So, so this is a little bit hard and a little bit self-reflective to actually think about this. But it is true. I mean, I do think sometimes it's easier to treat a stranger with respect than somebody that you might be close to. And I think ultimately that's because you don't know that person's flaws. They haven't done anything that may have offended you. And I mean, sometimes it can just be easier. I mean, ultimately the goal would be to treat everyone with kindness and with respect, but sometimes it's not as easy said, or not as easy to do as it is easy to say. And I think that's because we don't know that person. So like they haven't done anything that would cause you to not show them kindness.
Yeah. And
I want to flip that. I'm sorry. You want to go ahead?
No, go ahead.
I want to flip that around. What Sarah just said. Because they haven't done anything to me. I don't know anything about them, but sometimes they don't know anything about me.
That's true.
People that know me, I can't fake it with them. It's all out there. But sometimes with strangers, I think some way we play this subtle mind game in our head where I can still put on the perfect front in front of people. And I'm sorry, the three on the screen aren't perfect, and all of you looking at the three of us on the screen aren't perfect, and we're all not perfect, and we're all flawed. So very good. All right, Adam, go. You're up next.
Well, I tell you what, go ahead and shoot up Patsy's comment, because mine kind of goes along with the lines. Yeah. Mm. She says, we want to make a good impression to a stranger, but our family knows this all too well. And there's a lot of truth in that, because we do respect the stranger, but it's still kind of at a distance, and they don't really know. And again, I think I said this last week or 2 weeks ago. Cyndi Lauper had a song, "Our True Callers," right? They don't really know us. But I will also say this, because with that stranger, with that encounter, with that politeness, that first impression, whatever else, that's only a short period of time. But the stranger still doesn't have the strong emotion that we have tied to our loved ones, family, and friends. So even sometimes, quote, that we're not as kind as we should be, there's still that strong emotion. There's still that strong bond at the end of the day or at the end of the week that we've been fighting or whatever else. It's a completely different dynamic than the stranger that I just met on the bus for 5 minutes. Hey, how you doing? Great. How's the weather? Blah, blah, blah. And they get off the bus. It's just that short amount of time. So it is. Everything's kind of from a distance. And it's what Patsy was saying too. We kind of want to make this first impression, which is kind of ironic because most likely, especially if you're living in a bigger city, you may not ever see that person ever again. So why?
Yeah. Let me go back to our verse just so we can see it in the text. Verse 5, 1 Corinthians 13. Love does not behave rudely. And the fact that he says just don't be rude, behave rudely. He's really talking, I think the emphasis puts on action, puts the emphasis on our interaction with people and that sort of thing. So let me just give you a quick, as we get into this one, let me give you a definition. This is based on the word, the Greek word that's behind the word rude that you see there in 1 Corinthians 13. Let me give you this definition. The Greek word translated rude comes from two words, ana, which means back, and stepho, which means to turn. Hence, to move about in a place, to sojourn. It could be rendered shapeless or formless. That which is rude does not fit within the shape of what is proper. In other words, it doesn't fit the mold or the template, okay? It does not fall within the guidelines of how proper people behave. Maybe we should treat all others with the same respect we would treat the boss or the superior. If we love someone, we give preference to them rather than to ourselves. So it's an interesting compound word, and it's just sort of out of bounds, you know. It's kind of like that's when you throw the yellow flag on the field, like penalty. So okay, we want your comments out there, so keep them coming, and we're going to be moving to the next question, which again is sort of for self-exploratory here when it comes to our own sense of not behaving rudely. It is easy to detect rude behavior in others. Can we all raise our hands and say, yeah, I can spot that, you know, half mile away with glasses off? How can observing others help us understand and refine our own behavior? Because we really are bad at really self-analysis, self-viewing ourselves. I mean, Jesus talked about it. You know, we can't even spot that little speck of, you know, we can't spot that little tiny speck in someone else's eye, but there's this glaring imperfection that we just dismiss and overlook. So jump in.
So, yes, I mean, for the first one, yes, I think we can all agree. Is it easy to detect rude behavior in others? Yes, because it's in your face. It's clear. It's evidence right there. You can't miss it. But then the second aspect is how can observing others help us understand and refine our own behavior? Man, that's a good one. And matter of fact, Paul to Titus actually writes about this in chapter 3 in Titus as he's talking about, hey, how you reflect Christ, how you live godly amongst other people who don't know Christ. In chapter 3 in Titus, in verse 3 starting, he says, for we too. So let me back up. In verse 1, it says, remind them to submit to rulers and authorities, to obey, to be ready for every good work, to slander no one, to avoid fighting, to be kind, always showing gentleness to all people. Verse 3, this is what he says. For we too were once foolish, disobedient, deceived, enslaved by various passions and pleasures, living in malice and envy, hateful, detesting one another. But when the kindness of God, our Savior, and his love for mankind appeared, he saved us, not by works of righteousness that we had done, but according to his mercy through the washing of regeneration and renewal by the Holy Spirit. And there's just key words in there. One, Paul is just basically saying, and I get it, because if you've ever been around any human being, sometimes you just like, I can't believe he said that, or she did this, or he did this, or, and it's just like, and I'll be the first to admit, my wife is online today, so she can attest to this. Like, yes, being around little ones, like my patience sometimes, but I think it's also a good reminder. I was thinking about this today. It's a good reminder to be like, okay, Adam, here's two things. One, I want you to remind yourself that you too were once like this, not only physically at that age, but also in just kind of your rebellious against me and in your nature against other people. And then two, it's a reminder, thank God that I am a work in progress and I'm not that same person that I used to be last year, 2 years ago, 15 years ago with that same behaviors and rudeness and so forth. So that's where it comes to being reminded for me.
Very good. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I kind of agree because I mean, when you get to observe somebody else, you get to firsthand see the response from their behavior. So I mean, obviously that's easier to pick out, but then you can also take that and see, well, if I was in that situation, how would I have handled it? And then also not be afraid to, when you are in that situation, if you didn't handle it so well, to take a step back and figure out, well, what could I have done differently, so that way next time I can do a little bit better.
You know, whenever there's an airplane crash, thank you, Sarah. Good observations, and you as well, Adam. You know, whenever there's a plane crash, they always go looking for the black boxes. It's the cockpit voice recorder, so they can hear what was being said by the people driving the plane. And then there's the data recorder, which has all the engine function and all the stuff about it. By the way, the black boxes are not black; they're painted orange, so they can be found in the debris. But sometimes I think we need to do a little crash investigation as we see things happen. What caused that? What led to that? What can I learn from that? And the reason they do that is to find out what set of events caused that crash, so that hopefully can be prevented, so that set of combination of things can happen again. And we need to do some forensic investigation on our interactions with people. And you can learn a lot. People can teach you a lot. My father has a saying that I've heard him share for years. He used to have he had an old green truck, and he had this, written on a little piece of note paper stuck on his dashboard. It said, no one is completely useless. They can always serve as a bad example. So we
might have to,
I like that.
Yeah. So there you go.
Might have to use that.
Any other comments on this particular question?
Angie put reading body language.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So much of our communication is nonverbal.
It is.
And there's people who study this, and we all innately know it, but there's people who have taken it to a science that's just on a higher plane. And those of us who seek to be communicators, could do well to learn the nonverbal part of communication. It's so true. We can detect that.
Well, I tell you, you mentioned the example, and that's pretty much kind of part of the next question, where your dad was just like leaving this on the truck as an example. The next question is, can you share an example of kindness, not only received, but give an example of kindness that you gave? Those are totally two different aspects right there. So share an example, folks, of kindness received and given in your life. Folks, you guys should be able, within a matter of seconds, be able to comment on this of how you have received things, but also how have you given kindness, and that can be in various forms. So I'll let one of you two take a stab at that first. I think Jesse's muted.
There's my muted mic mistake.
at least one time, man. There you go.
Yeah. But here's the definition for kindness, okay? Affectionate, loving, got that? But listen to this: a sympathetic or helpful nature, of a forbearing nature, gentle, arising from or characterized by sympathy or forbearance, to be of a kind or to give pleasure or relief. This is a very robust reality of being kind. Sometimes you're kind, be kind to your brother, be kind to your sister. We kind of pull that into the, sort of everyone knows that sort of thing. It's robust. So an example of kindness received. And any of you watching, we see you're still watching. Okay, we see you online. So let's share an example. This should be almost as easy as what irritates you. We got a lot of response to that. what do you consider rude at the beginning? So anyway,
All
who wants
right.
to go first among this
So-
current trio?
I can.
Okay.
So, of kindness received. So, when we were sick a while back, we had somebody in our community. Uh, they just brought us some food and left it for us on the doorstep. That way, we had something that we could eat. They didn't have to, but they did.
Very nice. Very nice. Just as simple as some food left on the doorstep.
I was going to go visit my mom, and I was on my way to Parkersburg when my mother lived in West Virginia several years ago, and my car broke down. And this is, I mean, a long time ago, and that was the first time that's ever happened to me. And I was probably still good an hour away from my mom's house, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like there was no cell phone or anything else like that. So in all honesty, I sat there and I prayed, and probably about 15 minutes later, there was a nice, godly couple that were actually heading towards Ohio, and I hitchhiked with them, and just praying in the back seat, please, dear God, don't let me like die. Don't let me like be one of those scenes from a movie or something. But I mean, we had a great conversation, and they literally drove me all the way to my mom's driveway. That was kindness right there. So
Very good. Very good. Well, mine's a car story too. This was years ago. We were in Ohio, living in Ohio at the time, and on the way home from church, there's just like right around the block from church, a little convenience store, and I wanted a copy of the Sunday paper. For some reason, it wasn't being delivered, so I was going to run in, grab the paper, take it home, and Sunday afternoon read the paper and all that. So I go in, I come back out, left rear tire flat. I don't know what flat that quick. Maybe it was already flat, it was going flat, didn't notice it. And I've got a suit on. I've got 3 little kids in the back, and wanting to get home, and so I just got out of my car. I hadn't even got to the trunk yet. Okay, guy pulls up in the truck, jumps out, says, "Hey, I've got a jack. Don't bother. You're all dressed up." He gets out and jacks it up, gets my spare tire out, puts it on. I mean, like 30 seconds, all done. And I said, "Well, thank you so much. Can I give you something?" "Oh, no. I just love helping people." Jumps his truck, out he goes. I maybe just circled the city looking for flat. Just like came out of nowhere. So, and he didn't have to stop. I was a stranger. He could have just driven on by. I wouldn't have judged him for it because everybody else was driving on by.
Amen.
That's my problem and so forth. But there you go.
Amen.
Here's one we got online. Angie, there's too many names. My aunt housed me for a week when I was in a domestic violence situation. Terrible. Just someone to take you in. Needing some safety, needing some protection. Very good. Joyce says, several people are willing to help me with maintenance around my house when the things when there are things that I cannot do alone, the things I don't know how to do. Yes, very true. And we see that within our church family all the time too. People that have this skill to help that person in that sort of way. And
yeah, Joyce, just let us know if there's something that needs to be done. We have a ministry called the Response Crew at Mount Calvary. So if you can't get a hold of those people, let me know. Make a phone call, and we've got a couple of people on our response crew who will help you on out.
Very good. Yeah, anyone watching, the offer still stands. Okay, good stuff. Lisa writes something here. When our family has been under the weather this week, so many have offered to help, encouraging words, and let us know they're praying. Just, someone just jump in and stand in, and Adam and Tim have done that for me. There was. Wasn't too long ago. It was back before COVID. We were still having an evening service. It was which started 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I'm calling Tim. Tim, I don't know what you have planned tonight, but you're preaching tonight, buddy. I'm not going to be there. Just to step in and to do that, and with a pleasant Adam, you've covered for me many times in many ways, more than I can count. So thank you for that. Anything else you want to add? Anyone else? I think we all kind of get the sense of what that feels like.
I think the giving aspect is different. One of the things that I was thinking of for me was there was a difficult situation involving a difficult individual. And but like you said earlier, patience is not only, being patient with that person, you kind of put your hand over your mouth and so forth, but taking that next step and taking action of what you're going to be able to do next and showing love. And so I had a handmade prayer shawl that was made by a bunch of ladies in New Jersey, and I had it for a couple of years. And in essence, to make a peace offering to this individual during this difficult situation, I gave that prayer shawl to that individual. And then, so like that was cool, but at the same time, I'm like, man, should I have not given something else? But it's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. And sometimes the Lord pushes you out of your comfort zone. Now, here's an interesting. Watch this on the screen, okay? So we just brought this up a moment ago. Lisa says, others help and pray, and then this is, pay it forward, pay it back. However, Scott Carpenter says this: the Hellers let us borrow their generator this week when their power was out for a couple days. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, this is how the family of God's supposed to work. So very, very good. So thank you for sharing that kindness. And that's going to lead us into our response in just a little bit, because we all know what it feels like. We all know how good it is when we receive kindness. There's your clue. There's your template of what kindness looks like for someone else. Love is kind. Love has this affectionate, warm, helpful, relieving, lifting the burden kind of reality. And we got to figure out how to get that into play in our life. And that sort of unselfishness does something very good. That's the next question we're going to look at, which I think is going to be helpful. Here it is. What does unselfishness do to relationships? Go.
You first. Go ahead, babe.
All right. Unselfishness. Well, it helps build up the relationship, make it stronger. Over time, that relationship can grow.
Mm-hmm.
Adam?
Oh, and well, yeah. I'm just kind of looking at this and listening to everything.
Don't roll your eyes.
Yes, it does allow you to grow and so forth. But the whole unselfishness to the other relationship is completely countercultural. And the reason I say this is because let's be honest here, man. We live in a culture, in a world, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, whatever else, that it's the whole me, win mentality, right? Whether it's the argument, whether I'm going to beat out this coworker into this, whatever else. So when you are, in essence, practicing the love of God and unselfishness in that relationship, it doesn't matter what it is, you're allowing that win. It gives up the desire to have your own win, your own mentality. And so when you do that, it's more freeing, it's more intimate, there's more bonding, there's more trust, there's more everything. If I could say, it's positive than negative, because when we do walk away with the situation, we're like, yes, I just won that fight, or yes, I just won this against my coworker and I'm taking over.
Yeah, you just killed that relationship.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
Win the battle, lose the war, kind of thing in that regard.
There you go.
Patsy says builds respect and trust. Absolutely. And I just thought of it in these terms. Kindness pulls together. The opposite pushes apart. When we're selfish, it pushes apart. And, it's amazing. One of the big scams that's always been is like, how you can put energy in, we've got this device and it puts energy in, it produces even more energy out, which defies the laws of physics. That's called a miracle, and God can do miracles. He's done many of them, but apart from God's intervention in the laws of the world, it doesn't work that way. But kindness sort of works that way. You drop some kindness in a relationship, it'll infuse more energy than even the doing of it does. It will create a bigger result that pulls people together. Thank you, Patsy, for being part of our study tonight, and we're trying to answer that question. We're coming quickly to our time allotment, So let's get to the response because this is important, okay? Make it a matter of prayer. Pray about this. To ask God to help you with being more kind to an individual or in some sort of circumstances of life, okay? And to do that. And then go ahead, Adam. I saw your pen go up there. I learned
and I was just gonna say this too, folks. Many of you guys who are tuning in, listening to this, whatever else, you're like, yeah, pray about it. No, seriously. And if you want to know some stories, I'll be glad to tell you some stories. But there is some major power in prayer and prayer alone, like literally, truly seeking God out, even in the most dire, difficult situation. There's power in prayer.
That's very, amen. There's kind of a follow-up. We didn't put it on the screen, but it's on your study guide. Find a way to extend kindness to someone as soon as possible, and then thank God for the opportunity. In other words, don't let this one get stale. All right, don't let this be like that last banana on the bunch that got left on the too long, and it's now turned from a nice yellow to a brown. So get this done. Find something. Just take that step, because that's how God has treated us. There's several places. I just want to kind of reference these quickly if we can tick these off, because it's helpful to us. But in John 23, this is the passage where Peter says, I'll never deny you. I would even die for you. Well, we know Jesus predicted, and the only thing Peter did was deny him not once, not twice, but 3 times. But Jesus, then restores him in kindness. He's like, I'm sorry, you've lost your disciple card and you're now kicked out of the club forever. There's kindness. And then John 15:15, that's where Jesus says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, as they're nailing him to the cross. Talk about kindness, lack of rudeness, unselfishness. I mean, it just boggles the mind to think that anyone could think that way, and that was his nature in that moment. And then let me just read this quickly from Luke 23. Need a moment to get there. Okay, I'm sorry, I gave the wrong quote. This is the one where he says, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," and so forth. But anyway, I just give you those quickly, kind of bullet points, because it's important to see that this is the way. Remember, we talked about this. These loving like God. This is all a part of understanding that how to love like God. You learn how He loved us. He loved us, and that's the reason we love Him in return. Okay, all right, and we're ready for the bottom line. Adam, you want to bring this get us on the bottom line?
Yep, folks. Allow respect to win. Keyword, circle, highlight, put that in your mind. Take a mental snap picture of that. Allow respect to win over rudeness. That will go a long, long way.
Good discussion tonight. Thank you all for sharing. We have Elmer is with us, and he says,
"Good morning.
It's evening here. It's a good morning over there in Australia, where he happens to be at the moment. He's one of our missionaries. You pray for Elmer as he continues to serve faithfully there. And Adam, remind us one more time what we're looking for next week, okay?
Remember, folks, please submit your questions to Lisa at lheller@calvarydv.com by no later than next Tuesdays. Those questions pertaining to love, relationships, maybe there's something you've been struggling with to ask or whatever else. We would love to get those questions, and we would just like to discuss those next week and so forth. We'll have some questions of our own as well, too. We will not be mentioning anybody's names, but we are really, really looking forward to gathering those questions. So please submit those.
Very good. Sarah, thank you. You've done a great job, and you've
you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for being in here. She had the precious little notice that she was going to be on camera and all tonight, so thank you for that. And,
you're welcome.
Our normal folks all had other responsibilities, things going on tonight, so this worked out very, very well. So thank you. We will have you back again, I'm sure. And thank you for joining us. Look forward to being with you on Sunday. All 3 services, Lord willing, we'll be able to welcome folks at the church. And it's been nice to see some folks that are starting to come back, feel comfortable to do that. That's fine. And we'd love to see you there. We're going to continue our study in Ephesians. We're going to continue on in Ephesians chapter 5, talk about walking in wisdom. And this is an important subject that we need to have wisdom just marked all over our lives and see what that means biblically. And then our online service covering the same passage and also worship in the same way at 10 o'clock. So we'll see you in one of those venues, we hope. So Sarah, Adam, good night. You all have a good night. Thank you for being
Good
with
night.
us.
Good night.
Thank you.